Well, good morning. Aren't you glad that you live in the time of the new covenant that Jesus has made with his people? This morning I was reading from the book of Joshua, and in chapter 20 it tells us about the establishment of the cities of refuge, 3 on the west side of the Jordan, 3 on the east side of the Jordan. These cities had a purpose for someone who had committed manslaughter, someone who had accidentally killed another person. And the law made provision for the next of kin to actually slay that person if they had, they would be the one to apprehend them, and they would bring a trial against them, and they would put them to death. But if that thing was an accidental death, they could flee to one of these cities of refuge where the elders of the city would hear their cause, they would investigate the matter, and if it truly was manslaughter, they would give them safety in that city until they could hear the cause and make sure that everything was up and up. And they could stay in that city until the death of the high priest. And so it says in verse 6 of Joshua 20, "And he shall dwell in that city until he stand before the congregation for judgment, and until the death of the high priest. That shall be in those days. Then shall the slayer return and come unto his own city, and unto his own house, unto the city from whence he fled." When you come to the New Testament, the Bible tells us that all of those things that happened in the Old Testament were shadows. The reality is the New Testament. The reality is Jesus. And so, speaking of Jesus, it says, verse 22 of Hebrews chapter 7, "By so much was Jesus made a surety of a better testament," or covenant. Verse 23, "And they truly were many priests, because they were not suffered to continue by reason of death." So, in other words, you remember Aaron was the high priest, and when he died, then one of his sons would become the high priest. And so, these men, their ministry is limited by the length of their life, and then their son becomes the high priest following them. And he says, in verse 24, "But this man," speaking of Jesus, "because he continueth ever, hath an unchangeable priesthood." In other words, Jesus died on the cross once. He's raised from the dead. He'll never die again. So he says in verse 25, "Wherefore he is able to save them to the uttermost that come unto God by him, seeing he ever liveth to make intercession for them." You can just imagine someone had committed manslaughter. He had fled to the city of refuge. The elders would have heard his cause. The high priest would have been brought in. They would have told him, hey, this was an accidental death. The high priest would be familiar with the case, and he could be an advocate for that man throughout his life. But once he died and his son became the high priest, well, he might not be familiar with that case any longer. The point is that Jesus, he continues forever. He's not going to die. Our high priest is our intercessor or our advocate or our comforter forever. He ever lives to make intercession for us. Isn't that incredible? I mean, when we come to Jesus and we confess to him that we are sinners and we need him, we need his salvation, his shed blood to forgive us of our sins, and we ask him to save us and to give us a new life, he does. And he is our high priest. You can't get to the Father but through Jesus. "I am the way, the truth, and the life," Jesus says. "No man cometh to the Father but by me." And so he never changes. It's not like in the United States we replace the president every 4 or every 8 years. We just change, and totally new set of rules and totally new administration, and fire everybody and hire everybody, and everything's changing. And what did we do? Well, we used to do that, but not anymore. No. That kind of stuff doesn't happen with Jesus. He ever lives to make intercession for you. Now that's good news. I hope that you know him. I hope that you go to him because he ever lives to make intercession for you. God bless you. Have a great day.